They handcuffed me. They sat me on the side of the road. And that was one of the most embarrassing things because it's just cars driving past back and forth. All the officers are on the top landing. They got the dogs, they got the gas masks, they got the guns, and they're looking down at us.
It seems to me that you started to find some, you put your own personal needs, your own ego aside and started to find some humanity and empathy.
Yeah.
Welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Andrew Truong. We left Andrew in part 1 as a cocky drug dealer, hungry jacks eating, train crash waiting to happen. Is that a fair way of describing?
That is 100% accurate.
And surprise, surprise, the train crash did happen, and the New South Wales Police got one up on Andrew.
Yeah, so what happened after I got arrested? I'll start from the holding cells.
Okay.
So I remember
just before you do, take us through the arrest, because I think people have got to understand, and I say this to friends that and people, do you fully understand what happens when you get arrested? You then have no control on what you're doing, and I don't think people fully appreciate it. Like, you're taken away, you're told where to stand, where to sit, what to do, when to drink, when to go to the bathroom. You're handcuffed. You're not allowed to make calls. Talk us through that, because I want people to understand the ramifications.
You know, it's funny. Like your heart, you almost think like you're hoping that it's a nightmare that you're gonna wake up from, because, well, the moment I got arrested, so I was at 7-Eleven, about to pour petrol, and then the detectives pull up on me and they search me. As soon as they find the heroin, they're like, "All right, you're under arrest." They got me they handcuffed me. They sat me on the side of the road, and that was one of the most embarrassing things because it's just cars driving past back and forth. You're on a main road. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Everyone's coming home from work, and you just see people staring outside their car window, looking at you, and you're like, "What
Have I become this?"
Yeah.
Yep.
You're like, everyone's just staring at you. And at the same time, that's when the detectives have given the other detectives the green light to search the place. And then the detectives come over to me and they're like, "Andrew, we've sent the detectives in to search and they found XYZ. You're under arrest. We're going to take you down to the cop shop." Mind you, at the same time, that morning, my co-offender, who actually lives at the house, he got arrested that morning, but he was only charged with possession, because when they arrested him after leaving the house, it was only enough for possession. So once he got out of the cop shop that afternoon, he ran all the way back from the cop shop to the house on foot, and he went through the back way. He jumped over the neighbor's fence to get into because our house was right in between a preschool and a primary school. So we're in the middle of that. Yep. So he jumped through the back, and he was in the preschool's sandbox.
Yeah.
As he was just in the preschool sandbox, he seen them come in and search the house. So if he got there maybe 10 minutes earlier, he would have cleared everything out.
Right.
Yeah, or maybe half an hour earlier.
And that's what we're talking about in part 1. But in hindsight, at the time, you would have been thinking, "Fuck, I could have got away with that." But looking back now, it's probably the best thing that happened.
It was. Honestly, it's the best thing that happened to me. And in a way, I thought I could have dodged a bullet, but I've actually dodged a bigger bullet being arrested.
Yeah.
So they take me down to the cop shop, and I'm thinking, what do I do? You know, what can I do? And I'm asking them, "Can I make a phone call?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And I'm like, my heart's racing, I felt like, fuck, my life is about to end. But you know it's not about to end because you're not dying.
Mm.
It's just your life is ending.
As you know.
Everything that you know, it's ending. And the thoughts that start racing across your mind is, what were you meant to do at this time, or who's waiting for you? And I was meant to go to the gym with one of my friends that night, and I thought, oh my God. And then you hear the phone ringing. So I had my run phone and my personal phone. I heard both of them ringing, and it's like, oh, my mate's probably waiting for me at the gym. He doesn't know what happened to me. And at the same time, the run phone's ringing. You're like, oh no, this doesn't look good. You can tell they know what's up. You know what's up. And then the next thought that crossed my mind was, oh my God, my parents. What's going to happen? I'm not going to come home tonight. I was trying to process that thought of what's going to happen if I don't come home tonight. Like, are they going to come looking for me? How are they going to find out? What are they going to think? Too many questions. And I thought, oh man, I'm finished. It's over. My life's over. And then they took me to Emu Plains. Yeah, they took me to Emu Plains. And still no phone call. I sat there for about 2 days. And I'm like just in my own thoughts. Stressed in my own thoughts. They have a TV in the Emu Plains cells, but you can't change the channel.
Yep.
So it was a little bit of... like it put me at ease a little bit because I had something to sort of distract me, but it wasn't really distracting me. Like I'm still in my own thoughts. I couldn't do anything, and I was still upset. And then I'm just thinking in my head, surely this bad nightmare I have to wake up eventually.
Were you still in the? I understand that mindset, but at that point in time, did you say to yourself, okay, I've got to stop this, or had that crossed your mind?
So funny thing, like leading up to that, my mum has always been very superstitious.
Yep.
Like all her life, she's been superstitious. She's always had like she thinks she sees visions in her dreams. She probably does. Like I don't know, Mom. Okay, but my mum probably sees visions.
We'll give her the benefit of the doubt.
Give her the benefit of the doubt because she always like when someone passes away in my family in Vietnam, she always sees that in her dreams first.
Right.
And she always I always hear her telling about it. So before I got arrested, she was like, "Hey, what are you doing wrong? What are you doing wrong?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, Mum?" And she's like, "I saw in my dreams you getting arrested. What are you doing?" So she was already like sus on me, and she was trying to search my room and stuff.
Right.
So she knew. Anyways, so in my mind, when I was in Emu Plains, I was like, "Oh man, maybe this is a dream. Maybe this is just a dream." Because I've actually had a dream of myself getting arrested too once. So I thought, maybe this is a dream. It's just a bad dream. And then when they took me to the courts to get bail refused, I knew, that's it. That's it. I've got to eventually accept that this is my fate.
You realised you weren't going to wake up.
Yeah. Once I went to the courts and bail refused, that was it. That was the final straw. Like, all right, I'm not getting out of this. I just got to live my life from here on out. I just got to do what I got to do.
Were you be honest here, were you scared? Like you, 23?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Yeah, I was scared.
You haven't got a crew inside that okay, I can go in there and that you go into jail. Bad things happen in prisons, especially to as they would call it, fresh meat coming in.
Yeah.
Did that cross your mind?
It didn't cross my mind too much. Like I was more so scared of like I was living in anxiety about what was going on in my outside world. I was too busy worrying about the outside world.
Okay.
I didn't think too much about like, I'm going to get thrown in the deep end. There's going to be some scary boys. Because I remember, and I guess this is what kind of blessed me a little bit, was the first time that I went in and I kind of like seen everyone already and kind of knew everyone, like knew what it looked like.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, well, there's no one that was trying to put it on me last time. There was no one that was trying to bully me. There was no one that was trying to do anything.
Yep.
So I thought, like, I didn't think too much of it. I was just more stressed about my outside life coming to an end. And when I got in, same thing happened. I spent one night at Darcy and then they moved me to the working wing. So when I went to the working wing, I knew straight away, all right, cool. This is where all the Asians are at. I'll be sweet. I'll be fine. Went to the working wing. I kind of knew some people from the outside, fortunately. So which put me at ease a little bit too. And then I think about a week or two in of being in the working wing, they shipped me off to Bathurst. Then I was unsure. Then I started to be scared because the boys were like to me, "Oh, bro, you're going to Bathurst, bro. That's
bit of a reputation."
Yeah. They were like, "Man, there's no Asians out in Bathurst." Like I went from literally an Asian wing of like maybe like 15, 20, 30 boys of Asians to a wing with 2 Asians in Bathurst.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was sitting in the holding cells before we hop on the truck, and there was another Asian bloke there, and he was like, "Oh, bro, did you decide where you wanted to go?" Because I asked for Goulburn, so he decided to go to Goulburn, and I didn't even know that you could choose. I'm like, "What are you talking about, bro? They just told me I'm going to Bathurst." Anyways, he's like, "Bro, you should have chose to go to Goulburn." Goldman's a little bit better. And I go, fuck, both of them don't really sound too good right now. And he's like, look, man, just, stay staunch and find whatever boys you can find there and, you'll be fine. Anyways, so I got on the truck, I went to Bathurst, and that was a big shock for me because I just went from cells with a TV to no TV cells. Concrete walls, steel door, no shower in your cell. Like, it was a big, rude shock for me.
Talk us through day one at Bathurst.
So as soon as I got off the truck, it was like late in the afternoon. Walked in, and you see like the big brick walls and the high barbed wires, and you walk into the wing, and the wing is like that's jail. Like the 3 landings, and it's high up, and there's mesh in the middle, and the walls are all concrete. Like, that looks like a jail in the movies. Yeah. So I thought, fuck, this is terrible, And when I walked into my cell, they opened up my cell door. I had a Lebo celly, so I didn't feel too bad, but my mattress was half a mattress. So most people get a full mattress. Unfortunately for me, just that day, I had half a mattress.
What, cut down the middle? Or?
Yeah. No. So it was like, this is long ways.
Yep.
And it's cut in half.
Okay.
And I only had half a mattress because what people used to do back then was, because they never gave us any pillows, people would cut up mattresses and put that into the pillow sheets and use that as a pillow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I was stuck with half a mattress. So that night I slept with half a mattress, and my celly unfortunately didn't have a TV or a radio because he was still fresh to the system too. And, I was just talking with him all night, like just getting to know that bloke. And, funny thing was, that's like, when they say jail kind of sets you up, it's like a networking place for more criminals.
Yeah.
That's all we talked about that whole night. We were just talking about crime and like linking up on the outside. And, I guess that's what, like, at the beginning of my sentence, I expected that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then afterwards, after probably about 2 weeks, eventually I moved into a cell with another Asian bloke who had a TV. And that's when my time started to get a little bit better. Mm. So TV, it makes a massive difference.
I can understand, and there'll be people listening going, well, you don't deserve a TV, you're in prison and that. But, it's a discussion for another time. But you don't want to send people insane, sitting there. You got to keep them active. But to me, still at this stage, and I'm getting a sense, and I appreciate your honesty, it still seems to me you haven't learnt your lesson.
No,
you haven't. I've spoken to other people sitting in the seat you're sitting in, and they go, that was my wake up. Yeah, I've been taken away from family. I've been this, that. I'm ashamed of what I've done, but I'm not getting that from you, and I appreciate the honesty. So let's continue on in the journey. So 2 weeks in Bathurst, and
2 weeks in Bathurst.
You got a cell with a Asian cellmate. You've got a TV, radio.
Yep.
Life's pretty good.
Life's not bad. Life's getting better. I haven't started training yet.
Yep.
I'm like, when I go into the yard, I'm just walking up and down, minding my own business. Sometimes I meditate in the yard.
Yep.
I was just like, because I wasn't sure about like how long I was going to do also. So I was still in my own thoughts, and I was just trying to get the small things done, like get phone numbers on my phone so I can call my family. Still trying to achieve those things. Same thing with my celly. Same thing, we'd talk about drugs, talk about crimes, talk about how, if he gets out, we would link up or whatnot. For some reason, that's just common conversation.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Well, it's the common thing that's got you in there to start with, I suppose.
Yeah. So my first year at Bathurst, I spent it in that wing. And that wing only had like maybe 2-3 Asians at max at one time. So I kind of felt like isolated a lot. It was a indigenous, heavy populated jail. So like maybe 70% of the population was indigenous. Maybe another 5% was Lebanese or Middle Eastern. And then another 5% islanders. And the rest were Caucasian.
Talk us through the race divide in prisons. And my understanding is that if you're from a particular race, and you've got to stay with that race. They're the people who are going to back you up or look after you, and you're expected to do the same. Is that very much the culture of a prison?
Yeah, so that was the culture of the prison when I was doing time. I've heard it's very much different now. So
Yep.
talking to like some of the guys that are getting out now, they're telling me like it's about postcodes, what area you're from, and the barrier of culture has broken down. But when I was inside, it was like, well, people of your skin color, well, because they're most likely looking like you, they will look after you,
Yep.
you know, because you guys look the same. And common ground, like you can speak the same language, whatnot. So I guess I felt like a little bit of a sense of belonging. Luckily for me, at the time, the Asians and the Islanders would stick with each other for some reason, and I guess that's like, it happens in America too. I've watched like a lot of gang documentaries where they talk about American prisons, and the Islanders and the Asians would stick together there too, the Polynesians, and for some reason it happened here too.
Yeah.
So it made me feel more at home and safe when I was like locked up with them boys.
So when you say safe, that threat of violence.
Yeah, if something
Yeah.
was to kick off, like you never know when something was going to kick off or not. And I guess that's when I realized, oh, well, I felt like I've got big Islander boys around me. I'm sweet. At the same time, that's when I kind of knew the difference between, well, if you're wearing blue or whether you're wearing green. There was a big divide there too.
Yep.
And I got my first sense of that when at like a riot was just about to kick off in Bathurst. And nothing actually happened, but it was about to happen. So we were about to get locked in, and then one of the Islander boys was like, "Boys, we're not going into our cells. We're refusing." And I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here?" This is mind you, this is my first year inside jail. I've never seen this happen before, so I don't know what's going on. And then the boys are like, "The boys over in B34 yard have decided not to get locked in. We don't know why, but we're just gonna go on with it for the boys." And I go, "All right, well, I guess we're not getting locked in. Whatever then. We'll see what happens." And I just still didn't know what was going to go on. Anyways, I start looking around. All the boys start putting their shirts to cover up their faces, and so they could only see their eyes. And I'm like, what are these guys doing that for, man? Like, you know.
You are
like,
naive.
yeah. I'm like, what's going on? And one of the boys was like to me, "This is for when they shoot the gas at us, so we don't breathe it in, so it filters it out a little bit." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Fuck, I better start doing that too then." Anyways, then they come in, and all the officers are on the top landing. They got the dogs, they got the gas masks, they got the guns, and they're looking down at us. And it was like, and we were on the bottom landing.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my god, this doesn't feel that great, you know? Like, it's about to go off." Anyways, luckily the pipper or the governor at the time came over, and he was like, "I want to speak to the delegate." And then he spoke to the delegate, which was one of the Islander guys. And he was just like, "Oh, we're just not getting locked in because the boys next door are not getting locked in. You know, we don't want to leave the boys with it." And he's like, "Oh, look, it was a misunderstanding, something. Can't remember exactly what happened, but it was a misunderstanding, and the boys are already locked in." And then so, well, "Oh, quite sweet, you know. Oh, we're going to ourselves, boys. No worries, you know." And that was my first taste of like a riot possibly kicking off. So I'm like, "Oh man,
Yeah.
how often is this going to happen?" You know. And I thought, at that time, I still didn't learn my lesson. I was still carrying on my life like normal.
Yeah.
And I think about a year, like, because when you're in C34, you get to see all the new boys when they come to the jail. They will go to C wing first, and then they'll go over to B wing, and then they'll make their way over to A wing, the working wing. I always knew there was a working wing, but I was told I wasn't allowed over there until I was sentenced.
Yep.
So because I was unsentenced, they wouldn't let me over there. So that's what all the officers said, and that's what everyone said. But I was seeing boys that were unsentenced going over there just because like certain boys inside the jail had pool.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to go to the working wing just to like keep myself distracted because I was doing nothing all day. And I thought, I might as well be making like, even if it's $25, $50 a week, something. I got to do something.
Buy up.
Yeah, it helps with your buy up. It actually helps with your buy up. And for a whole year, I was stuck over in C wing. I couldn't get over there. Can't remember how I eventually got over there, but one of the guys that was working over there was like, "I'll get you over, bro. I'll get you over." Eventually, I went over there, and I think that's when my life started to change a little bit because there was like another like 15 Asian boys there. And I think I found unintentionally my first mentor who kind of started changing the way that I started to think about life. So I started working and he started forcing me to train. So he'd like, "Andrew, you're going to train today." He'd force me to train. He'd force me to, hit pads. He'd force me to spar. He'd force me to do the workouts with him.
Yep.
And mind you, my mindset was I didn't want to train. I didn't want to train at all. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I will wait until I get out and I do weights and I'll get big then. I don't want to do none of this. So I was like still in denial about this. Anyways, he would still force me to train. And then one day I ended up becoming his cellie because he forced me to become his cellie. And he treated me like a younger brother. He was like mid-30s at the time. And instead of like talking about selling drugs and like linking up when we get out, he would always ask me about, bro, what's your parents like? Are your parents look after you? Are they good family? Like, are they good people? And then he would always tell me things like, you know, when you get out, it is your job as the only son to look after your parents because they got no one else. Like, you got to be good to your mum. And he would tell me these things and he'd talk to me about these things. And he'd like, instead of talking about crime, he never talked about crime. He'd just talk about, bro, how was your phone call with your parents? How was your visit? And all of that. He'd talk about like more important things. And I guess that's when he started to plant the seeds on like, for me to become a better person.
Yeah.
And mind you, fast forward, like I didn't really like listen to him that much until I found out that he was a millionaire outside of being inside jail. Like, and he was like to me, look, I don't show this to anyone. I don't ever talk about this to anyone, but this is my brief and this is what I got done with. This is how I got it. This is how I ended up with doing 12 years. So he's done 12 years. This is how I got sentenced to 12 years. And then my respect for him just grew because I was like, so this guy is like a somebody outside, you know? And I started...
a legitimate business outside?
Yeah. It was a legitimate person outside. Yeah. And I thought, fuck. And like, so what happened was they arrested him with all this money, but he proved that it was all legitimate.
Yeah.
So they gave it all back to him. So that's what he was trying to show me on his brief.
Right.
Yeah. And my respect for him just like changed. Like, I'm like, oh, this is somebody, you know? Besides like what he got caught for.
Yeah.
Anyways, and then my time with him got cut a little bit short because they sent me back to Sydney for sentencing. But at the same time, I was actually really happy to go back to Sydney because I've been trying to go back to Sydney because I was honestly just over the idea of Bathurst, no shower in your cell. Like, I wanted to go back to Sydney.
It was old school prison.
Yeah, old school prison, and I was just over it, you know? So I wanted to go back to Sydney, and on top of that, like, it would take my family 3 hours to travel. Like, they'd have to get up super early, like 4 or 5 a.m.
Did that play on your mind? Because that would sort of, clearly you do care for your parents. And did that play on your mind that you're picturing your parents, like, worked hard all their life and here you are, you're fucked up for greed and they're getting up and travelling 3 hours there, 3 hours back?
Well, eventually, like the first time, so I hadn't seen my mum in about 9 months, yeah?
Yep.
So this is when I was still over in Sea Wing. I haven't seen my mum for 9 months. And the first time she came through, I remember I was bawling my eyes out because she started crying and I'm like, Mum, what are you crying for? You're going to make me cry.
Yeah.
And then I started bawling my eyes out. And then, because that was the first visit after 11 months, I just didn't know what to say or do. And I remember I was on the phone to my friends like the week before. My mates were like to me, bro, what do you want us to do, bro? Your mum keeps asking us to take her when we come visit you. Like, I can't put it off forever. Like, she keeps asking, but she's adamant. And I go, oh, man, whatever, just bring her, you know? Because I was trying to avoid seeing her too. But I was still calling her every weekend, but I just didn't want to see her. And then when I did finally see her, the disappointment on her face was like, it broke my heart. Like, I have never been like upset on the spot as much as when I seen her disappointed in me for where I was standing.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the white jumpsuit. You know, everything that she's putting into her life to make my life better.
For you.
Yeah, for me, it's been thrown away. All the hours that she's put in extra work so she could save extra money so she could put into tutoring, all that's gone down the drain. Like, everything. And that's when it kind of hit me and I thought, fuck. That's when I kind of started to think I needed to, you know, change something. I need to do something. And every time my mates came to visit me, they'd always be like, bro, what are you going to do when you get out of here? I'm like, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. And then when I did move over to the working wing in A wing, and I found my first mentor, I guess that's when he started to plant the seeds, and it just came at the right time. Like, I started thinking more about my parents and my family, what was actually important and what was more important in my life.
It seems to me that you started to find some, you put your own personal needs, your own ego aside, and started to find some humanity and empathy.
It seemed like that, yeah, and it was like that because I guess everything came together at the right time.
Yeah.
And I'd say I was very lucky because he wasn't the only person that was kind of guiding me in the right direction. There was another Asian bloke who was about the same age as him, and he was pretty much saying the same thing to me too.
Yeah.
And like it helps to have two older brothers rather than one.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of found that in them.
Okay. Sentencing. How was that? What was the sentence you got?
So I came back to Sydney for sentencing.
Did you plead guilty or did you?
Yeah, so I pleaded guilty. Yeah. So came back for sentencing. I pleaded guilty to commercial supply, and my co-offender was there too. Because he got bail from the possession, from the cop shop for the possession charges, and then they gave him the extra charges after, on sentencing day. He got 3 years in and 3 years out.
Yep.
I ended up getting 4 years in, 4 years out.
Yep.
And
so just explain to people what that means.
Yeah. So it's a 4 years of non-parole period and an extra 4 years of parole period. So you're out on parole for an extra 4 years, so a total of 8 years. And if I messed up, I got in trouble again in the extra 4 years, while I was outside, it was straight away you go back to jail.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're 23, 24.
24, yeah.
4 years. It's a long time at that age. You're missing out on some of the best years.
So by then, it was 2 years into my sentence already.
Yep.
2 years into my sentence. And honestly, my whole jail sentence before sentencing day, I'm going to say I became a religious man. Like, I woke up, I would pray, and then before I go to bed, I'd pray. And I didn't even know, what the right way to pray was. I was just praying, saying God, talking to God, Buddha, whoever was listening. I would wake up and pray for my family's health, my friends and family's safety when they were traveling to come and see me, and I'd pray for a good sentence. I was hoping for a good sentence. I was asking God for a good sentence, and I remember saying this in each one of my prayers. I promised I'd be a better person if I got a good sentence. And I guess when I got 4 years, I was expecting time served or 3 years, at most an extra 12 months.
Right, so it was a kick in the guts.
Yeah, it was a kick in the guts. The 2 years was a kick in the guts for me because I was expecting 3 years at most, time served hopefully.
Yeah. And
then when I got the 4 years, I was absolutely shattered. I stopped praying after that. After that, I just stopped praying completely. I was I can't believe I had to spend another 2 years. Here, I've already done 2 years. Another 2 years, it felt like forever. And then I got back to the jail. At that time, I was at Windsor. And the boys were like, but it's 4 years altogether. It's not bad. Mind you, at the same time, all the boys that I was around, they were getting good sentences for their charges. So I felt like it was a bigger kick in the gut.
Yeah.
And it didn't help. I saw another guy, another Asian bloke. He was going to get deported anyway, but he only got 3 years for a large commercial supply.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, this bloke get 3 years for large commercial supply, but mind you, he's getting deported. So I guess that's why. So they don't want to keep him here for too long, and then they're going to deport him anyway. And then I was just thinking, man, I got a life out there, I want to get back to. And I was just upset for a bit. And then when I got sentenced and classoed, so for those that are watching that don't know what classoed means, what happens is after you get sentenced, they classify you to a certain jail where you want to go. So they'll ask you a bunch of questions like, what programs do you need to do for sentencing? What jails do you want to be at, or do you prefer? And I wanted to stay in Sydney, either Windsor or Park Lee or Dawn Dolores. At the time, they're like, we can't put you there because they're all full. And I go, oh, well, can you send me to Oberon then? Because all the boys were telling me, yeah, go to Oberon. You get to buy meat there. It's a good jail, fresh veggies. You get foxtail, and you're out on the farm. And I go, oh, it doesn't sound too bad. The only thing that was putting me off was the fact that it was 3 hours from Sydney again. Yep. So it was going to be far for me to see my friends and family. So I wanted to stay close to my friends and family, and I guess like the visits helped me keep sane because I knew they were coming to visit and it wasn't taxing their time and day.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, well, if I can't stay anywhere in Sydney, just send me off to Oberon. At least I'll get meat buy-up, food, good food, ice cream, foxtail. It's a good jail. It's the only jail that actually has all those things. So I thought, all right, cool. I went out to Oberon to do the young offenders program, and when I went to get classoed, the lady said, once you complete the young offenders program, you can reclasso here, and they'll give you more of a what's that word? Not prime.
Privileges.
Privileges. No,
Yeah.
not privileges. You know when you're at the front of the line to come back, like to go somewhere.
Priority.
Priority. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Priority. Yeah. They'll give you more of a priority when you finish the young offenders program to come back to Sydney. I go, all right, cool. I'll go for 4 months, go complete the program, and I should be sweet. I'll come back. It's only 4 months anyway. So I went up there, and I remember this is when my fitness journey started to begin. I remember I was in the wing, and I looked out the window, and there's this Asian guy that was just training absolutely hard. And it was a nice guy when he first introduced himself to me too. And I thought, fuck, I really don't like the way that this guy's training because he's doing like all this calisthenic stuff, but he's going like CrossFit style. Like he's doing all these reps, then running, then doing this, then doing that. And I thought, fuck, I don't want to do this style of training, but I need some of that energy that he's got, that vibe, that never give up. Like I need some of that. Yeah, that drive. I need some of that. I thought, you know what, I'm going to train myself a little bit, and then I'm going to go train with this guy. And then I made the decision to start training and start eating healthy because, well, you know, you're given protein, like you're given chicken breasts, like to buy. You have
Which
all
is big currency in prison. Yeah.
Yeah, you got all these options to buy now at this jail. You might as well make the most out of your diet. You know, you don't have to eat tuna all the time anymore. So you might as well start eating eggs, start eating healthy, and let that run concurrent with your training. So everything improves. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going to do it. And then I started training with this guy, and that's when my life started to turn around for the better.
And the young offenders program too, was that where you were taken on a camp? Is that
Yep.
Yep. And
That's the one, yep.
That gave you a wake up call to your fitness level as well.
Yeah. So the young offenders program. So I'm still like I'd say I'm like even though I hate the young offenders program, I'm blessed to have done it because that first camp it's called Kickstart. It kind of wakes you up, and I'll paint a picture for everyone. When you do this camp, they give you these ugly ass boots that 100, 1,000 inmates have worn before you. There's no soles in it. The top of the shoe is completely hard. So what me and the boys used to do was we'd put dishwashing sponges into the front of the shoe, so like there's a bit of cushion there.
Yep.
And we'd wear that and we'd go on a walk for the first camp was 2 days and 1 night. So we'd walk and we wouldn't walk until we got to the campsite, which was like in the evening. But luckily, that first camp, it wasn't all uphill. It was just kind of like straight up and down a little bit here and there. It wasn't all uphill for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that was a big wake-up call for me. And I was like, fuck. And at that time, I was thinking, I remember I was walking, I was like, fuck, this is not like in the Instagram photos where everyone's doing these hikes in their Nikes and that. There's no fire trail out here. Where's the fire trail?
You're in jail.
I know. But like when I was told that I was going on a camp or a hike, I was thinking, what do I see on Instagram? Everyone's going on these. Yeah, I'm thinking, fuck, this is nothing like that. You know what? I can't wait to tell everyone when I get out, like, this is a hike. Yeah. This is a real hike. So I'm busting my balls. I'm carrying my backpack, and it's like a 20-kilo backpack with your water, your food, and all that, and your tarp. So they didn't give us a tent. What we got was a rope and a tarp, and that was our tent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd tie the rope up against the tree, two ends, throw a tarp over it, and that's our shelter and our sleeping bag. So it was like military style, like in the middle of nowhere. And I remember that night was my 25th birthday. And I remember I stayed up at the campfire, I was sitting there with the boys. And that's when I kind of like, it really hit me because I started being really self-reflective with my life. I go, man, I'm 25. I have nothing to my name. Like, I I own nothing. I have no qualifications. My studying hasn't even been. I got nothing. I got no certificates. Nothing. What can I do? You know, how can I improve my life? Like I was just actually angry and I was stressed at the same time because what I used to do was I used to get on the phone all the time and I'd be talking to my friends and my family and all the boys. I was actually angry because everyone was progressing in their lives. Like everyone was, they were either getting married, having their first kid, getting engaged, finishing uni, buying their first home, house, like just milestones in their life that people normally have between the age of 18 and 25.
Yeah.
And I was 25 and I had done nothing. And I didn't even have a girlfriend to get engaged with, like to get out. So I was just stressing at the fact that I was falling behind in life and I was getting anxiety from it. And I was just questioning, like, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I thought, you know what? Don't worry about what you can't, like what you can do and what you can't do too much. Just worry about what's in front of you. And the next thing that was in front of me was the next camp, the motivator camp, the one that was 3 nights and 2 days.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, two nights and 3 days. The one where we had to walk like 4 hours down the mountain, into the valley, and then another 2 hours up. That was the thing that I had to worry about. I thought, you know what? If that one's coming up, I need to prepare myself in a way where I'm ready for that, where it's not going to be a struggle like it was today. So what can I do? All right, well, when I get back to the jail, I'm going to have to prepare my body. I'm going to have to train absolutely hard, the hardest I've ever trained in my life. Whatever the boys are doing, I'll have to do too, and I'll just suck it up. And then the next day, woke up, finished off the hike. As soon as we got back to the jail, I started training straight away. I didn't rest. Everyone went to go have a nap and sleep and have a shower, easy in. I went straight to the yard and I started doing, done a workout called 20 to 1 burpees, so 210 burpees altogether. You do 20 burpees, then 19 burpees, 18 burpees, all the way down to 1.
Hardcore.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I did it. And I thought, fuck, you know what? I have to train even harder than this. I have to keep going. So the next day I just done 2 workouts instead of 1. Then eventually I tried to train 3 times a day just to prepare myself for that big camp. And then when I think there's like 4 weeks in between each camp, 4 to 6 weeks, when we got to that second camp, I remember climbing up the mountain and I remember looking around and I seen all the other, some of the boys are struggling, most of the boys are struggling, not the ones that were training. The ones that were training, they were doing it okay. And I remember looking at the ones that were struggling and I'm like, this is why you're struggling, bro, because you didn't put in the hard work when I did. You know, and I remember like, this is nothing. I just lunge up the mountain, keep lunging, keep doing lunges. That's all it is. This is just lunges and step ups together. Climb up the mountain, walk in the park. And when we got to the top of the mountain, I remember the person that was running the course, he said something very important. He said, guys, if you look at this view right now, would this view have looked as good if you took, would this view have looked as good if you took an escalator up here or an elevator up here? Or would it look as good as it does now because you climbed it? And I thought, oh, it looks better now because we climbed it, you know? And he goes, yeah, why? And then we stopped and we thought, there's no shortcuts in life. You know?
Good.
Yeah.
It's good messaging, isn't it?
Yeah. I started to realize, you know, there's no shortcuts in life, you know? Things are going to feel better when you worked hard for it, you know? The money's going to feel better when you've worked hard for it, when you know you've earned it the right way.
I like your story there. Like it fascinates me. Yeah, you can see the transition, and it's interesting you relaying it from a personal experience. But it's like a metaphor for life. Like you've got to put effort in to get the reward. But it's interesting. You go, the young offenders program. I don't like that, and that would be I would suggest the old you. And when I sit here listening to you talk about it with pride, what we achieved, what we did. And sometimes those little things, and there's some down and out people in prison and life's kicked them in the guts from the day they were born. Your journey there was slightly different. You had some people pointing you in the right direction, support from your family. But what an important lesson to learn.
And I think it came at a right time in my life because there's still that statistic of where guys end up getting out and not all of them stay out after doing the young offenders program.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like when I was at that jail, they say the cutoff age is 25.
Yep.
Because after 25, you're not really a young offender anymore, or 24.
You're setting your ways,
Yeah,
perhaps.
you're kind of setting your ways. So they try to catch you between 18 to 24 to do the program.
Makes sense.
But unfortunately, like a lot of the guys that I was doing the program with, like their mindset was still very young. Like they were still very immature at certain things. And I thought me at 25 was absolutely perfect because I was looking for where I wanted my life to head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the planets aligning. It was the right time. You've grown up. You've reflected and virtually understand that you got to turn your life around.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember getting out and I seen some of the boys that were not on the program with me, but they were inside that same jail with me, getting back in for similar charges. And I thought, I kind of saw that happening with them when I was with them.
So at that point, when you've had your 25th birthday, reflecting and decided that you're going to start training, is that the moment where your life's turned in a different direction?
100%. Like I think I became really disciplined with the way I controlled my life, because after that, like my diet was on point. Like I forced myself to learn how to count calories while inside jail.
Yep.
So everything that I ate, I would ring up one of my friends and I go, hey man, how much calories is 100 grams of chicken roughly? Look, I don't got a scale in here to weigh it, but I'm just going to guess by eye and I'll just figure it out. Because I want to get a fucking six pack. I want to look good by the time I get out. How do I do it? And he's like, learn how to count calories. All right, cool. So I started counting my calories. I had this notepad, and there's two things that I would count. I'd count my calories and my protein, because the protein was for muscle. And I go, I won't worry too much about fats and carbs, otherwise I'll do head miles. And yeah. So every day, whatever I ate, I'd write down the calories and I'd write down the protein. As I ate it, I'll tally it up. And I'm like, all right, cool. I have 600 calories left for the day. I still got to get my protein in, because I still tried to get 2.2 times my body weight for protein. And I religiously done that for the rest of my sentence.
Okay, so it's what I'm seeing, looking from the outside, you're putting some discipline into your life, setting goals and milestones that you want to achieve. And again, pointing you in the right direction. Not only has it sort of changed your approach to life, it's also given you a career in the fitness industry. And there's one thing that you're involved in that I want to talk about, because I find it quite interesting. ConFit.
Yes.
Talk us through that.
So with the ConFit program, we are running mentorship programs based around fitness. So what we do is we run a 9-week program, and throughout the 9 weeks, we go to the juvenile systems, the centres. Frank Baxter. We've been to everyone inside New South Wales except for Acmina.
Okay.
But when we run these programs, they're about 9 weeks long.
And these are all ex-prisoners?
Yeah, ex-prisoners. Yep. So all ex-prisoner mentors, the common interest and common ground that we share is that we all turned our lives around through fitness.
Yep.
So fitness was like the saving grace that, pointed us in the right direction when we had nowhere else to turn. And we kind of like developed this program using the same principles that we learned through fitness. So the program basically is we'd go into the center, run a short training session with the boys, try to give them like a taste of what prison workouts are like, and then kind of teach them how to train too, because a lot of the times, we didn't even know how to train when we were on site. Yeah. We just learned from other boys. So we're just teaching them like a little bit more polished version of what we learned so they can do. And then after the training session, we'd sit them down, we'd talk to them about certain topics depending on the week. So if there's 9 weeks, there's 9 topics for us to talk about. The first thing we talk to them about is this thing called the G code. And what we say is, look, there's a way to live your life, yeah? There's obviously the criminal way, but you can still live by the criminal way where you don't snitch, or you don't dog on your boys and all of that, and you stick staunch. But this is another code to live your life in a more positive way. You can you can use this one side by side, and it's the G code, which stands for gratitude, goal setting, and being grounded. And like when they hear that, they're like, "Oh, this sounds good, this sounds cool, So and it really rings a bell with them. And we talked to them about like the first week, how do you stay positive in such a negative space? Well, gratitude. You have to find gratitude, and gratitude is found at the bottom. So we teach them like just actively trying to find gratitude each day. When you wake up, hot showers, small things like that. So that way you can be more appreciative and more positive around people. And then the second thing we talk to them about is goal setting. And we all always use our own stories from our own experiences to get the message across. So like for goal setting, I always tell the boys, I had this ambition where every time I was in the yard and I seen some of the boys do certain things like, I don't know, 100 burpees in 5 minutes or 10 muscle ups or whatever, I would set my own goal to be better than them or to prove to myself that, if he can do it, I can do it. What makes him any different? He might be a little bit taller than me, but we're still all human.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my story for goal setting, my take on goal setting. And then I reapplied all those things that I learned from fitness into my life. So every time things got hard, I just pushed myself a little bit further, because when you think about it, if you're doing a burpee workout, it's literally just getting down to the floor and getting back up.
Yeah.
How hard can it be, So
it can be very hard.
Yeah, it can be very hard. It can be very hard, but if you keep telling yourself, you just get down, get back up.
Yeah.
It's like if you break it down in that sense, the same thing is when you get out. Like it might sound daunting to get a job, but how hard is it to just send out 20 resumes?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone might reply back to you. You worry about that then, but worry about what's in front of you, getting down onto the floor first and then getting back up.
Yeah, but basic messaging. But how you feel that it's been received going out and speaking to these young offenders?
I feel like we've had a really good positive feedback, because a lot of the times, like especially like so I've connected with a lot of their teachers.
Yep.
And the teachers are like when they see our program, they're like, Andrew, we tell them the exact same thing. And I go, I know. Look, we tell them the exact same thing, and it's literally just a different shop front. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like the messaging is exactly the same. It's just a different shop front coming from a different person. And I guess that's what helps them resonate with. And it's just normal.
Well, it probably reinforces if the teachers are telling them that, they are, but you're the teachers. Then your crew come in and you've got the lived experiences and saying it, it's probably reinforcing it. But like the physicality of it helps with self-esteem and goal setting, all that. So I can see the benefits of it working. And prison can be a very physical thing. On the surface, there's a lot more emotional stuff that goes on. But you guys and everyone's very much aware of the people in the prison yard. They come out all chiseled and ready to go. So I can see young guys buying into it.
Well, look, I've got to give credit to Joe for putting the program together.
Let's pay homage to Joe. So you're talking Joe.
Now I'll give you a quick background story of So I actually never got to meet Joe when I was inside prison.
Yep.
But every jail that I went to, the boys that I met up with or got to meet, they all asked me the same question. They go, "Hey, bro, do you have an older brother?" And I go, "No, I don't have an older brother." And they're like, "Bro, you remind me of this guy that reminds me of like you exactly. Like his name's Joe Kwon. Like the way he trains, the way he carries himself, the things he says, it reminds me exactly like you, bro. It's like you're his brother."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, I don't know no Joe Kwon." At the end of my sentence, when I got towards work release, I worked at this place called Duffy Kennedy. They said the exact same thing to me. They go, "But do you have a brother named Joe Kwon?" I go, "No, I don't." And then...
No, I don't, but he must be a good style of a bloke.
Must be. He has to be, But then I got out and I saw Joe start his boot camp called ConFit.
Yep.
And I found that on socials and I followed him and then he followed me back and then we started talking and he's like, "Bro, you have a lot of mutuals with me." I go, "Yeah, I have mutuals because everywhere that I went, they already knew you." So that's my background story of how I met Joe. And then he started the ConFit Pathways program, the non-for-profit, running these programs. And I remember he released a video one time of what he did inside the juvies.
Yeah.
And I thought, fuck. Like, when I saw that, it was roughly around the New Year's period, New Year's Eve. And it like awoken a fire inside me where like it gave me purpose, like something to give back to community. And I thought, I want to be a part of this. Like I'm pretty sure everything that I've done up to this point, it can help someone's life.
Yeah.
It may not help that many, but it will help at least someone. If it doesn't, like I'm sure there's like a version of myself out there from 5 to 10 years ago that I could help. And so I quickly messaged Joe and I was like, "Joe, can I get on board?" And he showed me about the program. And as he was doing the program, like a lot of the stories that Joe was saying, like I shared the exact same experience.
Yeah.
Like for instance, when we talked about, so when we were on the program, we're talking to the boys about being grounded. For Joe, it would be making the most out of every given situation, because he used to call everyone outside too, and they would be going on holidays and whatnot, getting married, and I resonated with that. So I'm like, Joe literally lived my life, but on a completely different timeline, and because we had a strong connection on the program, like I'm able to pretty much like run the program when he's not there, and like it's literally the same message, and I'm sure all the other mentors have very similar stories when we run the program.
Yeah. On a personal level, the high that you got selling drugs and trying to be the big, baddest, coolest dude in town, are you getting that same high by just the humble things of helping people and putting back into society?
Honestly, the high from helping people and changing people's lives is so much better. Like I thought I got a high from being a coach and like helping someone transform their life, but that high has been like 10x when I went into the juvies and I created connections. And I thought, like, when a boy comes to me and he says, "Hey bro, I want to train and I want to do this," it's like, whoa, wow, I've actually like it's possible for me to change the trajectory of his life instead of him going down a life of crime. Because the statistic is about 80% of them are going to go back into jail or juvie post 12 months of their release.
It's not good, is it?
No, it's not. Well, it's
got to break that cycle.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but for them to come up to me and say, "Hey Andrew, I want to change my life. I want to get more into fitness." The high for that is unbelievable. Like I never thought it was possible when I was 15 years old to see like where my life would end up. Like the fact that I was going to change people's lives. Like I never thought it was possible. I thought by the time I hit 30, I'll have a couple of kids and I'll live my life like a normal person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back to it, reflecting whether it was 10 years or so ago, how lucky it was that your mate was stuck in the sandbox at the primary school and didn't get in and clear the drugs out.
I am so blessed because, like when I look at my life now, sometimes I wish I had this mindset a little bit earlier because I want to achieve more and more and more.
Yeah.
But I understand that things have had to happen in this order at this time for me to end up where I am now. So I don't want to change anything. If I had to change something, I wish I knew these lessons earlier.
Yeah, it could have made a difference. You're making a life for yourself outside now, and with your fitness training, and so that's you go in the pathways program in the juvenile, but you also teach members of the public.
Yeah. So in my personal and private life, I'm a coach. I'm a full-time coach, mainly an online coach. I do still have one-on-one coaching, face-to-face PTs, but most of the time it's online coaching, and I use a lot of the principles that I use to teach the kids in my coaching program because, well, a lot of the times the kids struggle with a lot of things with like the environment they're in, and they use the excuse that they can't change what they can't change. But sometimes the average person in your community is struggling with the same things, but maybe food related.
Yeah. And
I think they work hand in hand so well because I'm coaching someone to transform their life. I'm coaching a youth to transform their life. So they really work well hand in hand.
Okay. So you're not going back to prison?
100% not. 100% not. I put a post up yesterday, a story. If I was to get locked up tomorrow, for whatever reason it may be, I know for a fact, 1,000%, that I would not waste a second in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the lessons that I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's important, and I appreciate you being so honest, and it's been an interesting journey, and I've just sat back and listened to you take us through it. That it took you a while, but eventually you came out the on the right side of things and trying to do something good. And I find it fascinating that you say that the highs that you got in that deluded world of being the cool drug dealer pale into insignificance compared to what you get just contributing to society and helping people.
Yeah, it's not even close. Like I don't even think about the high anymore.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even tempt me. Like if you could tell me tomorrow, "Hey Andrew, go do this drop here, and it's 100, like not 100 mil, but like it's $100,000. You could do this drop in 100K. Would you do it? And I would just say no, because it doesn't fulfill me. Like I felt, when you find a purpose in life, when you find a purpose, you feel like, this is what I have to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to help people. This is how I'm going to change things.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on Eye Catch Killers. Good luck with the future, and I'm really glad. I think society's a better place when people turn their lives around. So well done. Thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you.